She's on drugs or something. No, I'm totally, I just hate you. I hate. Okay, we're calling the cops on you because you're disturbing everyone in here. But the law says I can't kill them. If the law didn't say that I couldn't kill them, they'd all be dead.
Well, here's the thing. White America has been raised to believe, A, the police are always the good guys, and frankly, that black lives matter less than white comfort.
You have this imaginary wall around you. I don't know who damaged you. And me being a black man, I have to suffer for what somebody did to you? That has nothing to do with me. I'm not the enemy. I get that a lot from black women, that we're the enemy, we're liars, cheaters, we're dogs.
As a film director, you want to talk to those who just loving these brothers, these rappers. In fact, rappers such as Rick Ross, rappers such as Lil Wayne, those out there having you falling in love with that nonsense, having fallen in love with thinking that that's reality when they're talking about balance. But they living other than that. See, they walking around with bodyguards and etc. And they got you out here gang banging, got you out here shooting and killing one another. But listen, all that, the reality of it is when I see you. When I see you, it's over. It's over. Why? You're dead. You're dead. You're dead. You're dead. You're dead.
Hey, this is Perry L. Duff coming at you live from the Hustle of New York City, saying thank you for taking the time out of your day to come and join us on another session. In this part 3 of our session with our distinguished guest, James Ellis, we talk about menage a trois, affairs, corrupt police officers, of attempted forced confessions, witness tampering, and most of all, we talk about James Ellis' own admission to his past nefarious activities, what lured him into that life, and what he's learned from it. So continue to join us, stay with us. You'll find this a fascinating session to learn from. And as always, please help us grow. Smash that like button, share. Don't forget to leave a comment. And most of all, subscribe. Thank you and enjoy the show. I gotta admit, I've been studying and reading these articles, and I've been reading now from what I'm reading so far, I really am intrigued by what I'm checking out here. According to the Cincinnati Enquirer, it says here that you say that you were not, that the fingerprint that they found at Mrs. Utter's residence was not yours?
No, that wasn't mine. They were saying that they had tested my print with that print several times before they decided to arrest me, and it never matched me. And then they said that in '94, they ran it through a computer called AFIS, AFIS, and that the AFIS computer kicked back a list of 17 names, and I was one of the names on the list. And so I've never even heard of who the other 16 people were. Like, I never got the names or anything, but apparently I was one of the names on the list, so they came and arrested me.
Well, here's the thing. They said that a forensic scientist who does DNA testing whittled down 161 possibilities of African American males, and that the DNA evidence did not put you there at the crime, but it did not exonerate you from the crime. How do you respond to that? That, I mean, I'm like,
well, if you read into the transcripts, or further questioning of that DNA expert, she basically narrowed down to saying that the only characteristic that DNA had with me was that because I was a black male and whoever committed this crime was a black male, and that's why I wasn't completely excluded from that DNA because I was a black male and whoever done it was a black male.
Okay, I have something else to ask you. But before we get to that, I want to talk about this detective that you apparently were involved in a menage a trois with Mrs. Harper. Now, according to this detective, he coerced her or forced her not to come to court to testify by threats, and that he used to smoke weed with this woman.
Well, he admitted that at the time, even during my trial, that he was smoking weed, but he said that it was a habit that he had brought from Woodstock or something. My lawyer had told him, like, this ain't Woodstock, and you are a detective with the Woodlawn Police Department. You're not supposed to be using illegal substances. And he just busted out and said, well, I don't mess with cocaine. And he said, well, I didn't ask you about that.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow, that's a step up.
Yeah.
Now, like, you don't smoke, you don't mess with cocaine, so, you just smoke weed, so I guess that makes everything better. Duh. But
right.
It gets
right,
me.
But everybody from my neighborhood, it's a small community, and everybody knows everybody. And everybody in my neighborhood knows that he was on cocaine at one time. And the detective out in Lincoln Heights Police Department, Chester Williams, I think his last name was Williams. Everybody called him Chester. They had got caught up because they were stealing drugs out of the evidence room in Lincoln Heights, and he was involved in that.
The other thing I wanted to ask you is that, according to these articles that I read, Mrs. Harper did come and testify. And she said that you physically assaulted her, but it was disproven because it was also stated that at the time that she claimed you assaulted her, you were in the hospital at that time.
I think that might have been Mrs. Andrews. I don't think that was Miss Harper, because she never even got on the stand, because she came to court and they were telling her to take the stand and say that I was like some enraged drug dealer and all of this stuff, and she's got the arguing back and forth with the prosecutor and the detective Reed, and she was saying that she's not going on the stand lying on me, and that's when my private investigator heard the conversation out in the hallway, and that's when that's when my private investigator found out that it was actually a relationship between her and the detective. And they had not reported, and the prosecutor never even reported it. And he was obligated to report anything that was favorable to the defendant, and he never done that. He never told us anything about it until my private investigator, Kimberly Gray, heard the argument out in the hallway.
Did you think that detective put her up to say that about you?
Oh, absolutely. I know he did. She came down to the jail and was telling me that he was trying to set me up, that he was trying to give Stephanie Price drugs, that he was trying to give Jeannie Andrews money. The person I think you're talking about was Jeannie Andrews, that took the stand and was saying all of that stuff.
Okay.
And that was one of my ex-girlfriends. And she was the one that had got on the stand and had said that she overheard me talking to a shadow in the kitchen, and I told the shadow that I was going to go kill some old lady, and that I left that night and I never came back.
Right.
But then she got to arguing with the judge while she was on the stand, because the judge asked her how old she was. And she flipped out because she didn't want to say what her age was. And so she just said, look, all I got to say is he's very unpredictable and he needs some help for his head. And once y'all get him some help, he'll be all right and y'all can let him go.
She was talking about you?
And yeah, she was talking about me. And the jury and a few people in the back, they started giggling, and the judge released her from the stand.
What did she mean that you need some help and that you'll be okay?
She was saying that I was very unpredictable and I needed some help. I guess she was referring to the way I was living at the time, just being out in the street, because I wasn't an angel out there, and I tell anybody that I wasn't perfect out there. I wasn't an angel. I was in the street. I was selling drugs.
Okay.
I was hanging in the wrong crowd. You know, I was street fighting. So I mean, I wasn't the perfect person when, you know, at that time in my life. You know, I think a lot of it had to do with my brothers dying, but you know, I just wasn't at a good place in my life at that time. And I made a lot of bad decisions as far as being in the street.
Now, please don't feel that I'm asking you these questions because I'm trying to in any way implicate you as any type of a person. I'm not. We're really not here to judge you at all, but it's because of these testimonies that you give add such authenticity to the podcast. It keeps people glued to our cast, and it really lets them see, you know, that, you know, you are a human being, you've made mistakes, but what people want to know is how you overcame those mistakes. Now, in your questionable activities, would you say that there are things you've done that you wasn't happy about?
That I wasn't happy about?
That you wasn't proud of?
Absolutely. Just being in the street, period. You know, selling people drugs, killing people. I mean, that's basically what you're doing, killing people when you're selling drugs.
Right.
I mean, I'm not proud of any of that.
Right.
You know, and I'm not proud of letting my family down, because my family are not like, you know, they're not street people. They're not project people. You know, I have 8 sisters and I have 8 siblings, and you know, all of them are like career type people. You know, and I made a choice to be in the street. I didn't have to be in the street. I chose to be in the street. You know, and yeah, absolutely. I've made a lot of bad decisions.
Now, through those decisions that you made, at any point in those times during those decisions that you made, did anything reveal itself to you to let you see that, hey, if you keep going down this road, it's going to go from bad to worse? Was there anything about those activities that you've done started to reveal itself to you that, hey, look, what I'm doing here isn't working, and at some point, all this is going to blow up in my face? Did you see that?
Well, I don't think I saw it until I was out of it. I was out of that situation. Mm-hmm. You know, it's sometimes it's when something is right up close to your face, you can't really see it because it's so close. But when it's away from you, you can see it a little bit better, you know. And I at that time I didn't see it because the neighborhood that I grew up in, that's just how it was. I mean, to sell drugs, you know, I mean, that was like a graduation to a certain status in my neighborhood. That's what everybody done. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You know, that's everybody done that. Mm-hmm. You know, and I mean, that's what I was used to. That's what I knew.
Was it tough to get jobs, or to pin down a job, or was it tough, or was employment hard to come by, or difficult to deal with?
Oh, well, nobody ever really talked about jobs. You know, I mean, that wasn't even part of like our conversation or amongst crowds and stuff out there. Everybody was just like, you know, sell drugs, get money, you know, be out in the street, party, you know, that was everybody's mentality was at that time.
The reason why I asked you this,
you know, because at that time it was like a few guys that was in my neighborhood, older guys that were like successful at being drug dealers, and everybody idolized.
Were they really successful? And was it drugs that made them successful?
Yeah, just that they had never got caught by the police, and they had a long run on being able to flip their money over and over and over. You know, and they had nice cars, and they had, you know, nice clothes, jewelry, and that's what the definition of who you were out in my neighborhood at that time was. The definition of who you were it was judged on the material things that you had around you.
Where are those guys today?
Well, some of them are dead now. A lot of them are dead now, and you know, some are in jail.
Why am I not surprised to hear that?
But yeah.
Now, yeah. I have some other questions for you, but it's going to be for our podcast next week. So I just want to end by saying that,
Okay.
you know, I see the same patterns here because we have other guests who always show the same patterns, the patterns of betrayal, the patterns of the lure of the money and the materialism and the fame, and it always ends up the same. Years down the road, they lose their lives, they die, or they end
Right.
up destitute.
This concludes this session of the Hustle's Corner in New York City. If you are a person that's incarcerated and you have books that you'd like to get out and you want to share your story, come share your story on the Hustle's Corner in New York City, Tales from the Big City. If you are a person who has been wrongfully convicted of a crime that you did not commit and you want to share your story, come share your story on the Hustle's Corner New York City Victims of the System series. If you are a person who has been self-reformed, active in the community, came out of a past nefarious life to a more positive one, and you want to share your story, come share your story on the Hustle's Corner New York City Legends of the Hood series. If you are a Black business owner and you want to share your story of how you got your business off the ground and how you faced many challenges to succeed, come share your story on the Hustle's Corner New York City Black Business Movement series. If you are a musician or an artist or a vocalist or a rapper, hip hop artist, and you want to share your story about your career and how you have grown it into success, come share your story on the Hustle's Corner New York City On the Grind series. And if you are a woman who has been through traumatic times in her life only to overcome them, come share your story on the Hustle's Corner New York City Lipstick Stories series. And if you're enjoying this show, please help us grow. Show your love. Like, share, leave a comment, and most of all, subscribe. Thank you for joining us. Looking forward to seeing you again. This is Perry L. Duff from the Hustle's Corner, New York City.
And I could never measure up or measure it all. I am but a man with no grace of my own. Look at my hands, I am not scarred for you all. This is why I fall down at the feet of the king. Submission is a mission, I receive it every day. I am but a vessel, he leads me through my faith until the day that I